What's up guys, Uncasual Gamer here, and today I am going to be sharing with you some games that I think you should pick up ASAP because I think they're going to go up in value. Obvious to say that this is not official money advice. I'm not telling you to invest your own hard-earned money in these games. I'm just giving you some tips as to what I think are going to go up. Okay, so I did a similar video to this about 3 months ago where I picked out 5 Xbox 360 games that I felt were going to go up in value across the next year or so. Now, since doing that video back in May, out of the 5 games I featured, 4 of them have already gone up in value. One of them's almost tripled in value, and 2 of the others have also gone up by, I think, about £10 each. And if you've not watched that video, then you can go check it out here. And I still do think the games in that video are still going to continue to rise over the next few months. They're all games that have been steadily rising, and I think they're going to continue to rise as the Xbox 360 kind of hype continues. Obviously, the online Xbox 360 store closed down at the end of, I think it was July, end of June or July. And there hasn't been, people were saying, oh, there might be a massive boom when the store closes. We've not seen a massive boom. What we've seen is a continued rise in prices from 360 games. So nothing crazy, but games still just, games that were £5 maybe now are £7. Games that were 10 are now 15, games that were 20 are now 30. Etc. Games that were £1 are now £2.50, £3. Now I could just pick out 5 games for the sake of it, but I want these to be genuine predictions. I don't want to just pick out games for the sake of it. So I'm only going to run through 3 games today, and all 3 of these games are currently less than £10. So if they're not in your collection, I would recommend going and getting them now before they go up in value, because I think all 3 of these games are going to at least double, if not triple, in the next year. So the first game is NBA Ballers Chosen 1. Now, obviously, I'm here filming in the UK, and first of all, let's start with sales. So this is obviously a basketball game, which is an American sport. Now, over here in the UK, things like FIFA, which is a football or soccer game, if you're based in America, they sell really well, like sell millions and millions of copies every single year. However, the American games, so your NBA games and your baseball games and your ice hockey games, do not do as well over here. Now, this game actually only sold, it's showing at 0 sales. It's showing at less than 10,000 sales in the UK when you go video game charting. And that's absolutely crazy for a 360 game. And it actually came out towards the start of the 360's life cycle in 2008. So not right at the start when it was launched, but only 2 or 3 years into the 360. And selling that few copies is actually pretty mad. This actually looks like, I've not played it myself, but it looks like it plays almost like an arcade style game, kind of like maybe like a FIFA Street of the NBA basketball game, basketball world. Now, CEX actually have this game listed twice under 2 different names. It's exactly the same cover art. I'm not sure what the difference is. I've put in a couple of 360 collecting groups online, and I've not actually had a clear answer to this. One is selling for £2 on CEX, and there only are 2 copies in stock, I believe, across the country. And the second version is selling for £6. And at the time of this video, there only are 4 of that version in the country. Now, I picked this up at my local CX store in Leeds, I think about 2 months ago. It was some point over the summer, and I'm pretty sure I got this for £2. I think, given that this has hardly sold at all in Europe or in the UK, and given that it's pretty cheap at the moment, but CX seem to have one version at 6, one version at 2, if you can get a version of the £2 copy of this, I'm pretty sure you'd be able to trade it in for whatever they're offering for the £6 one immediately. So you'd probably get £3 exchange immediately and make £1 profit. However, I think that once the £2 ones have sold out, then surely the £6 one will be the only one available. And I think given we're seeing more people collect for the 360 now, and we're seeing people trying to complete collections and add more games to their collections like myself, this game is going to go from £6 to at least 10, I think, by the end of this year, the end of 2024. So this is one that I would, out of the 3 games I'm going to talk about today, this is the absolute banker out of the 3, and this is the one that I would recommend picking up first and kind of going for if you don't have it in your collection at the moment. Okay, so game number 2 that I'm going to talk about today, that I think is going to go up in value over the next few months and years, it's from a big franchise, a big gaming franchise. However, it's a game that didn't perform particularly well, and we'll explain a little bit why just now. So the game is Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. So obviously, first of all, this is not a mainline Resident Evil game. I've got Resident Evil 5 and 6 sat over here on the shelf, which were both released on the 360. And these are mainline games, and these are both very cheap to pick up at CEX. I think they're like £2 or £3 each maybe. However, Operation Raccoon City is currently £8 at CEX. And like I say, first of all, this is not a mainline Resident Evil game. So it's likely that it didn't obviously sell as well. And when we look at the video game sales, particularly for Europe, it only sold 140,000 copies in Europe. So that is like about 1/7 of a million or something. So nowhere near a million copies sold. And that is pretty bad performing, particularly for a name such as Resident Evil on a console such as the Xbox 360, which at the time was the biggest console on the market. Now, it was released in 2012, so right at the end of the Xbox 360, or right towards the end of the Xbox 360's life cycle, which is maybe why people didn't pick it up. And it also is a reason why there were not many copies produced or sold. However, what that does mean, and for collectors like us, is that this is the rarest by far out of the Resident Evil games that were released on this console. So if people are going for a full set of Resident Evil games, and you need to have this one included, then obviously this is going to be the hardest one to find. And as more people build up collections and start collecting for the 360 and the Resident Evil games, this will be one of the harder ones to locate. And for that reason, I think this is going to start slowly rising in price. As I say, it's £8 at the moment. There are not too many copies available in CEX. It's not like there's only a handful. I think there's about 15 copies. When you look down the list, though, it's only one at every store. There's not a single store, I don't think, that has more than one copy in stock. So I think these will start shifting pretty quickly. And I think this will go up to £10 in the next, I'm going to say a month or two. I think by November, this will be up to £10. And I can easily see it up to £15 by early into 2025. So yeah, I'd recommend picking this up fairly soon. If you're picking it up to more to play rather than as part of a collection, I'm not sure I can recommend it. I'm a big fan of Resident Evil games, especially the remakes and the more recent games on the PS4, the PS5, Xbox Series X. This only scored, I think it was like a 5 on IGN, and on Metacritic it was like a 5, the middle of the road as well, maybe like a 55 or something. So it was kind of 5 out of 10s across the board. So yeah, not something that I can recommend for playing, but I think for collecting, this is a game that I would recommend picking up sooner rather than later. Okay, and the third and final game on this video's list is, again, similar to Resident Evil. It's from a massive video game name, and that is an Elder Scrolls game. And you might be thinking, hang on a minute, Oblivion and Skyrim both were the only Elder Scrolls games that were released on the 360, and they're obviously two of the best-selling games of all time, two of the best RPGs and games in general of all time, and they did really, really well. However, it's not one of them two, although it is linked to one. And that is the Elder Scrolls Shivering Isles expansion pack. Now, I didn't until recently actually realise that this game existed as a disc. I always thought this was like an expansion you could download, or when Bethesda actually brought out an Oblivion Game of the Year edition, which included both this and the Knights of the Nine, which was a second expansion disc. And they included them all in one set. And I can't remember when that was from. But because that was from, I know it was fairly early into the life cycle when that Game of the Year edition came out, it kind of made these games that I didn't even know about redundant, because most people just picked up Game of the Year edition. And I guess if you're going back to play it now and you've got a 360, it's easy just to pick up the Game of the Year edition of Oblivion, and you've got the game and both expansion packs all on one disc, and you can play them all on your 360 console. So this game I picked up for £3 earlier this year, sometime, I think it was over the summer again. And like I say, I saw it in the shop, I didn't realise it actually existed. And I've got Skyrim and Oblivion, of course I have, like almost anyone will have in their collection. So when I saw this, I thought, hey, A, it's going to look great on the shelf next to them, and B, you don't see this about much, and it's quite, for that reason, something interesting to pick up. I think it's already up to £4 in CEX, so there has been a £1 price rise in the last couple of months. That's obviously not a huge amount of money increase, but I think as people start realising that this is on disc and that you can pick it up, and if you've already got, like I say, you maybe have Skyrim and Oblivion in your collection as a collector and you're missing this one, it's one that's not going to pop up as often, and it's also one that didn't sell well at all when you go on the sales charts. Again, much like NBA Ballers, it's showing at actually like 0 for Europe. It didn't actually get above 100,000 sales, I don't think. So this is a game that there's not many copies out there, and if you can find one complete like I did at CEX, I would recommend picking one up. Again, I think similarly to Resident Evil that we've just spoken about. There's not just a handful of these on CEX, but there's not tons of them. I think there's probably about 10 in stock across the country. And also, again, I don't think there's any store that's got more than one in stock as of filming this video. So I'd recommend, if you've got one in stock at your nearby CEX, maybe pick it up sooner rather than later. And I guess when you're only paying £4 for a game and it's got the Elder Scrolls label and it's made by Bethesda, this is never going to decrease in value. And obviously, it's a great game to play. Both the expansion packs for Oblivion are really good games, just as good as the standard game itself with the main campaign in. So yeah, that's it. 3 games on the Xbox 360 that I think are going to go up in value. As mentioned before, I haven't just picked these games for the sake of picking them, and they're just games that I think when I was looking through my collection, thinking, what games are going to go up, what games are going to stay the same. These are 3 games that I genuinely believe are going to A, hold their value an absolute minimum, and B, are going to start to rise as more people start collecting for the 360. More people start to fill out their collections and build on their collections. And also, given that 2 of these are in subsets, the Resident Evil subset and the Elder Scrolls subset, people like having a complete subset of games. They like getting all the GTA games, they like getting all the Halo games, and they like getting all of the Elder Scrolls and Resident Evil games. So people are going to need these in the collection, these games, and they didn't sell well in comparison to some of their kind of brother and sister games. And with these additional 3 games now, as well as those 5, that's 8 games that I think are going to continue to rise over the coming months and years as the Xbox 360 becomes more collectible. So yeah, I'd recommend picking them up now if you've not got them in your collection. Are there any games that I've maybe missed? If there are, let me know in the comments below. Any games that you think it's worth picking up. There's also, if you click on the playlist down below, my full Xbox 360 collection, which I go through in 4 different parts, talking through all the games I've got in the collection. So yeah, if I'm missing any, please let me know in the comments below. But thank you for watching and keep gaming.